In horror's long history, the icons often step from the shadows, wielding a sense of twisted righteousness, a desire for revenge. But Art the Clown is something different, something unmoored from revenge, motivation, or morality. He's not a slasher who follows a code or rules, nor is he the tragic monster whose vengeance stems from ancient wounds. Art is chaos incarnate, a performance of madness that transcends the mask, the makeup, the costume, and even the concept of character itself. He is the ghost in the machine, a pure representation of horror itself. In the canon of Art's appearances, beginning in All Hallows Eve and extending through Terrifier and Terrifier 2, we observe not a plot-driven villain, but a phenomenon, an entity shaped by randomness and anarchy, whose very lack of reason is what makes him so terrifying. Art the Clown doesn't kill because he has to, or even because he wants to. He kills because he's driven by an unknowable impulse, a compulsion without need for justification, and that makes him terrifying in many ways horror villains fail to achieve. He's free of the human compulsion for validation or victory, existing instead as a creature of the macabre and the surreal. To understand the brilliance of Art, one must first look at the short film that introduced him, All Hallows Eve. Here, Art appears almost as a spectral figure trapped within the VHS tape, a prisoner and an executor of nightmares bound only by the whims of his creator. Art's movements, subtle gestures, and unsettling glares speak volumes, relying on mime-like expressiveness that simultaneously entertains and horrifies. His silence, his stillness, his fixation on his chosen prey all serve to make him a figure of primal terror. And unlike many horror villains, Art doesn't feel the need to rush. His pace is measured by his gaze, unflinching, as though he takes a grotesque joy in the anticipation of the horror he's about to unleash. With Terrifier, Art's nature begins to crystallize, evolving from an atmospheric entity to a brutal physical menace. Here, he revels in the act of terror itself, performing grotesque murders with a strange, gleeful artistry. There's a certain creativity, a macabre humor in how he dispatches his victims, transforming the act of murder into a twisted dance. The infamous hacksaw scene is emblematic of Art's approach. It's unflinchingly graphic and disturbingly inventive. It's not enough for Art to merely kill. He has to push the boundaries of horror to a new extreme, showing a morbid inventiveness that sets him apart from typical slashers. In Terrifier, Art embodies pure evil in a way that defies typical explanations. He's not motivated by revenge, or lust, or hatred. He doesn't even appear to enjoy his own actions in a way we can understand. Instead, he seems to operate from an instinctual impulse to disrupt, to destroy, to defile the boundary between audience and horror. In many ways, Art is less a character and more of a phenomenon, a breaking of the fourth wall, an intrusion into our collective psyche that shatters our preconceived notions of what horror villains can be. He's a spirit of unbound chaos, his lack of reason or purpose becoming his most unsettling trait. Art doesn't just kill, he performs death, revels in the theatrics of carnage, almost as if he knows the audience is watching and seeks to unsettle them as much as his on-screen victim. Terrifier 2 magnifies Art's impact, pulling him deeper into myth, further abstracted from the realms of the physical world. Here, Art the Clown becomes a kind of dark force, a legend within his own narrative. His silence, his expressive physicality, and his lack of explanation reach new heights as he crosses into almost supernatural territory, haunting the protagonist Sienna and her family like a recurring nightmare. It's in this film that Art's presence becomes less tethered to logic and more a perverse, almost supernatural persistence. There's something mythic, almost Lovecraftian about his ability to survive, to endure beyond the usual mortal limit, his resilience becoming a testament to his status as an icon of horror. Art's silence, his deranged focus on Sienna, and his relentless pursuit reinforces status as a primal, unavoidable force, more akin to a nightmare given flesh than an immortal villain. What makes Art the Clown work so well is that he challenges the very nature of horror storytelling. He doesn't need a backstory or motivation to be terrifying. In an era where villains are increasingly given sympathetic origins, Art rejects any trace of humanity or redemption. His origins are irrelevant. He doesn't need them. He is horror incarnate, a nightmare without boundaries, and it's his unapologetic embrace of that horror that makes him resonate so powerfully. He embodies the primal fears we hold: fear of the unknown, fear of death, fear of a force that is indifferent to human suffering. In this way, Art the Clown stands on a rarefied plateau of horror villains, unapologetically monstrous, fiercely unpredictable, and gloriously terrifying. In Art, we see horror distilled to its purest form, an uncaring force of annihilation that doesn't need to explain itself. He's a mirror to our deepest fears, and like all true horror, he's beyond logic, beyond reason, existing solely to remind us that there are forces in the universe that operate outside our understanding, forces that will tear us apart without a second thought, simply because they can. Art the Clown is a rare horror icon for the modern age, a brutal reminder that horror doesn't need to explain itself to be effective. Sometimes horror just is, and Art the Clown, in all his blood-splattered silent malevolence, is exactly that, horror incarnate. Alright, horror fans, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with anyone who loves horror, and stab that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming content. Drop a comment down below. I'd love to chat with you and hear about what you're watching. And remember, I take video requests, so let me know what you would like to see next. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.